Good morning, Dan and Amy. And yesterday, Chris Kennedy, the son of Bobby Kennedy, announced his candidacy for governor of the state of Illinois after a number of false starts.
Yeah,
in
he's
pursuit
always
of high office, including particularly the governorship.
right. He's done this two other times, right? Just
Yeah,
testing the waters.
yeah. Now is his time, according to Chris Kennedy. We have some excerpts from his announcement.
Why won't you acknowledge our love child?
That is not my baby.
Where?
Demand? Who are you to demand anything? I run this town. You're just a bunch of low-income nobodies.
Election in November.
What? Again? This stupid country? Very well. If that is the way the winds are blowing, let no one say I don't also blow.
It should make for a spirited campaign. And for more on that, we're pleased to be joined by our friend Charles Thomas, ABC 7 political reporter. Charles, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
Hey, good morning. Yeah, I spent some time yesterday with Chris Kennedy. We did an interview yesterday.
And why now? Why is this Kennedy's time?
Well, I was actually very impressed by the interview, but at his mastery of his talking points. He went at it like he'd been a career professional politician, and you wouldn't know that he had never run for public office. Everywhere you ask him a question, and he would turn a pivot, as they call it, and immediately say that it was all the responsibility, all the blame should go to Bruce Rauner.
Kind of runs in the family, though. The talking point.
To the point of while being impressed with how he did his talking points, then you begin to become very skeptical about how in the world can you take a guy who's been in office for 2 years and blame all of what's bad in Illinois on that person. Then I asked him about this criticism coming from the Illinois Republican Party that he is just a foil for Mike Madigan. And, of course, he denied that and, again, blamed everything on Bruce Rauner. Then I asked, well, does Madigan have any responsibility at all for all that's wrong? And then, almost incredibly, he said he wouldn't blame Madigan for anything that's wrong in Illinois. And at that point, you say, hey, this guy is in an alternative universe.
Mm-hmm.
He won't acknowledge Madigan's involvement in anything. And
Does he know how Springfield
all
works?
For the guy sitting in the chair.
Well. To be fair, I mean, he wants to give Madigan a chance. He's only been the speaker for 32 years. That's not enough of a probationary period.
Right. It's like Madigan is on videotape stabbing the victim, and at this point, to me, the question is it first degree or second degree murder or manslaughter? But Chris Kennedy was saying he would not. I would throw him fastballs 75 mile an hour center cut, hit it out the park, Chris, and he would not say anything derogatory about Speaker Madigan during the entire interview.
Yeah. So why is he doing it, though? Why this time?
Because I think that there's been, he's going to be a very effective candidate. He'll be about the most effective Chicago-based candidate you can run downstate, because a lot of Democrats downstate, I think, who are fed up with the Democratic Party are going to maybe give a guy with the last name Kennedy a shot for old time's sake. And I think that's how he can be the Chicago Democrat who could run down there.
Well,
and there's another school of thought within the Democratic Party that we've got to come up with a candidate like Sherry Bustos or Andy Manar, who's from down here, who can convince downstate Democrats to get back on the train.
Yeah.
But Kennedy, I think, is the guy that the Chicago Democrats think can run most effectively. Not J.B. Pritzker. I don't think J.B. Pritzker at this point is going to get in.
Oh, really?
Because Kennedy's already taken the plunge.
Well, here's the thing about Kennedy and about this region, Northeast Illinois, in this state. We love our dynasties. We love our dynasts. We love names.
Democrats do.
Well, I know.
Democrats do.
Right. So and mildly informed suburban voters who keep giving Democrats their majorities. I mean, it's not downstate; it's the suburbs that's giving Democrats their majorities.
I've sensed that appeal to the ignorant voter. I sensed that throughout my interview. When he would blame Bruce Rauner for things, he said Bruce Rauner had stolen the public aid from 1 million people.
Yeah, right.
That 1 million people don't have their aid and their help anymore. Well, you have to be very naive to believe that Bruce Rauner had anything to do with that. The reason they aren't getting their money is because Illinois is broke. That's why they aren't getting their money.
Well,
but he just made the point over and over again that Bruce Rauner is the reason that you're not getting your freebies.
Well, with respect to Kennedy, so Rauner's already put a $50 million downstroke in for next year's reelection. Chris Kennedy, how much Cuddy Sark money is he willing to put in?
Man, he said he put in, I asked him specifically because I did an interview a couple of weeks ago with Pritzker, J.B. Pritzker, and he said this is going to cost between $50 and $100 million. It was on tape. He said that. So I asked Chris Kennedy, I said, are you willing to spend $50 to $100 million to become governor? And he said, look, resources are not going to be a problem.
Wow.
That's virtually a quote.
Yeah, so this could be the most expensive gubernatorial race ever, possibly?
It will be.
Maybe in the country.
It will be.
If Pritzker for some reason jumped in, it absolutely would be, because then you'd have 3 of these super rich guys involved in trying to become governor of Illinois, not to mention anybody else who might get in. Yeah, you could have this could be the mother of all gubernatorial campaigns.
So J.B. Pritzker's out?
Well,
you think?
Spalding? So you think Spalding's out?
What was the question again?
You think Spalding's out? J.B. Pritzker. Yeah.
Well, I think that it would. To me, I just don't see where there is room for a Pritzker versus Kennedy primary.
Mm.
And then you got to figure there's going to be an African American candidate involved there somewhere, and why shouldn't there be? And then then you've got your Amaya Pawar. I don't know how much money he could ever raise, but he's going to be in there, and he's a very thoughtful young progressive.
Yeah.
Pawar. And I think it could be quite a race.
Well, with Chris,
if in fact that happens.
With Chris Kennedy,
I can't. But the question being, I can't see how logically J.B. Pritzker would get involved if Chris Kennedy is already involved.
Well, the good news is
I don't see it.
The good news is with Chris Kennedy, the Democrats will have an opportunity to learn to love billionaires again.
Isn't that something they're going to have to? Well, I think it's going to help the governor, because the billionaire Bruce narrative will have to go away.
Right, exactly. But with respect to the governor, the incumbent governor, Rauner, where do you think he is right now, and the Democrats' assessment of his relative strength? Does Kennedy's money crowd people out? You mentioned Pritzker. Does it really crowd people out and make him the presumptive nominee? Or is there a feeling that Rauner is weak, such that there are people that are willing to risk their legislative seats to take a shot, or their congressional seats like Bustos to take a shot?
Well, that was a kind of a complicated question, but I think it does crowd out a lot of other people. I think the downstate Chicago Democrat argument persists, and I think they're going to have to figure that one out. But I think that the fact that Chris Kennedy jumped in, and he's jumping in with some, he's got some fairly significant Democratic consultants working with him. I think this is an effort to crowd the rest of them out.
Did Chris Kennedy?
I don't see the rest of them getting in.
Yeah, during your interview with Chris Kennedy, did he seem upbeat? Does he seem optimistic? Does he? I think this is his time.
He seems very lucid. He didn't have any specifics on how he was going to, turn the state around, if you will, to use some Rauner syntax. He didn't give me any specifics. He gave nobody any specifics. Everything was Bruce Rauner's bad, Bruce Rauner's bad. Everything was about Bruce Rauner being the bad guy, and I'm going to be the good guy. That's all he really offers at this point. But he sounds like he could be an effective candidate. He's not the most charismatic guy when you just look at him and walk around. He seems to really understand the buzzwords that'll get him going inside the blue bubble. How that's going to play downstate, I don't know in this era. But up here, I think he can be an effective candidate.
All right.
In the city of Chicago.
He is Charles Thomas, political reporter for ABC7. Charles, thanks as always for joining us. Appreciate it.
Hey, man, thank you for having me.
Thanks, Charles. And he joined us on our turnkey.pro answer line.